Hey, it's Jeff with DaringDino.com. In this video, you will learn how to add crown molding quickly in Blender. I'll cover how to add crown molding to your scene, how to make your own crown molding, how to quickly change the crown molding that you're using in your scene, how to master those tricky curves, and how to use my add-on to do this way faster. So first, let's look at what we'll be making. So you can see this is a pretty basic scene. It's just a simple hallway where I've got some crown molding around the top. So the first thing we're going to do is add the crown molding path into our scene. So you could just do it by hand, but to make it a little easier, I recommend finding an image to trace the profile of the crown molding. And to make this a lot easier, I've included such a file for you, and I've even made it easy to trace. Hit Shift A to add a curve, and we'll go Bezier. And then we'll go into edit mode with tab, and I'm going to select this segment or the control point and hit X to delete it and delete that control point. So now we've just got this one. I'm just going to put one of these at each one of these points, and as I'm doing that, I'll kind of talk you through it. So I'm going to add one there. Then to make a new point, we hit E to extrude, and then I'm going to drag it up to here, and then E to extrude and drag another point here. And I'm going to keep going, and these will look very weird at first, but we'll make it pretty easy in just a second. So I'm going to add one into the middle of this curve. Then I'm going to add one down here at the top of this curve here, at the bottom here. And then to connect to these two, I'm going to keep this one selected, shift left click to select that one and hit F. So now if we go back into front view here and select our curve, you can see it's very, very, very wrong. And that's because the control points weren't really set up the way we want them to. So we'll fix that pretty quickly by selecting all of them with A and hit V, and then I'm going to select vector. And what that will do is make these control points a little bit better, but not incredibly great. So you can see the straight parts are all perfect, but the round points still look wrong. And that's because vector is literally just a straight line connecting all those control points together. I'm going to move our reference image here back on the y-axis a little with G and Y, and just move that back a little, just so that we can see our curve a little bit easier when we're trying to look at it. So you can see this part looks great, the top and the left side here, and up to here it looks fine, and then that's obviously wrong. So let's fix that really quick. So I'll select this point, and this point, and hit V, and we'll change those to aligned. And you can see now they're round, but they're still not right. So to fix that, let's go into front view, and I'll zoom in on this one first. And I'm just going to rotate it with R and just rotate it there. And then I'm going to scale it up with S. And I'm just going to reposition it a little bit so it's a little bit better spot. And I'm going to move this one so it's a little bit better spot. I'm going to move this control point to point kind of in that direction. And I'm going to select this handle, move it in that direction. I'm going to scale this one down a little bit and this one down a little bit. And now that curve looks a lot better. It's a lot closer to what we want. So then let's fix the next one, which is this one. So one easy way to figure out what to do is you want the handles to kind of be along the curve surface, like picture almost like a sled going on that curve. So let's just rotate it so that it's closer to that. And then we're going to grab this handle and move it in. And what that did is actually change this control point type to a free aligned. And that just means that each side can do its own thing. And then I'm going to grab this one and move that one to about there. And I'm just looking to make this black line kind of go where this purple line is, like right in the middle. I'm going to scale this one down a little bit. Let's see where we are. That looks pretty good. And let's just fix this one by rotating it. I'm going to zoom in a little so you can see what's going on. Scale that up, move this point, and I can probably scale that one down now. Just trying to get those lines pointing in the right direction. That's looking pretty good. Yeah, and if we wanted this to be exactly perfect, we would make these perfectly straight on the z-axis here. So let's just scale them on the x-axis. So SX0, and that will make them perfectly straight that way. And then we'll grab these two, SZ0, and then let's go up to the top and do kind of the same thing. So select this point, and these should be flat on the z-axis, so SZ0. And then let's grab these two, SX0. And that will make our corners nice and sharp. And this one should actually be flat on the z-axis too, so SZ0. And now you can see that. I don't know if that actually did what I wanted it to do. So let's select, yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. And let's just fix some of these points a little bit just to make it a little bit better. Right about there. That looks good. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Cool. So now let's rename our object. We'll call this crown molding profile. Now we're done with this image, so I'm just going to hit X and delete it. And now we've got our path here. And one thing that's also super smart to do is to make the anchor point or the origin. If I draw a line here, you want it basically there, like right here, because then when you have it as a crown molding path, it'll just snap right to the top corner of your wall, which is pretty much exactly what you want to happen. So let's do that by going into edit mode, selecting everything, and we're going to use our grid axis here to kind of line things up. So I'm going to make the top along this side and this side along this side. So I'm just going to hit G to move it, and that's pretty much perfect. Cool, let's save our file. And honestly, that was the hardest part. So now let's make a very basic hallway. So I'm just going to hit Shift A to add a plane, and then I'm going to go into edit mode with tab, and I'm going to go into edge select mode up here, or you can hit 2. And I'm going to drag this one on the y-axis to kind of make a hallway. And then I'm going to hit Control R to make a ring cut, and I'll just move that here. Control R to make another ring cut. I'm going to select these two, and a cool way to extrude them out the same distance in opposite directions is hit E to extrude, then immediately hit Enter to set them in place, then S, X, and then scale it out with S. And then we'll do the same thing again. We're just going to extrude this out on the y-axis. Yep, cool. And then we'll do the same thing. E to extrude, Enter to set them in place, and then S, X, and then just drag them out. Awesome. So now to make our walls, I'm just going to select the outermost edge around this whole thing, which I can do a little bit easier in wireframe mode so you can see. And I'm just selecting this outer edge the hard way. There's easier ways to do this, but it's not that complicated. Cool. And then I'll hit E to extrude up on the Z axis and just drag it up a little. And then I'm going to make the ceiling with F. And now we've got, on the outside looks kind of stupid, but let's add a camera inside here with Shift A. I'm going to add a camera. I'll put it here. And we want it looking down the hallway this way. So we're just going to rotate it 90 degrees. And then if I go to camera view, and let's make our camera much wider, so maybe like a 20 millimeter, and switch into solid view. Great. I've got my camera. I'm going to move it back just a little bit. Awesome. So this is kind of the inside of our hallway. So now, to make the crown molding go along the ceiling here, what I'll do is rename my hallway to hallway, and then I'm going to go into edit mode, and that top face is already selected, but if for some reason it's not, I'll just show you how to do that really quick. Just go into face select mode with that button or 3, click there, and then what we'll do is go back to edge mode because we want to duplicate just this edge. So let's select this edge loop with option click or alt click, and now I'm going to hit Shift D to duplicate it and then separate that with P and separate the selection. Awesome. Now I'm going to call this crown molding path, and let's actually hide our hallway so you can see what I'm about to do here. So these are just edges, and I'm going to convert it to a curve by going to Object, and I'm going to go down to Convert to, Object, Convert to Curve from Mesh, and that will turn it into a 3D curve. So now, if I turn my hallway back on and go inside, with this crown molding path curve selected, I'm going to go to Geometry and then Bevel Object, and I'm going to select my crown molding profile. And you can see that this is not working. It's supposed to be working, but it's not. And this happens sometimes, and that's because curves can be kind of weird. So here's where you're going to learn how to be a master of curves. So with this crown molding profile, go into edit mode, select everything with A, and then we're going to do RX90, and that will start to fix it, but you can see it's kind of backwards. So let's RX180. We're going to scale it down quite a bit. Now it's starting to look a little bit better. And this problem is actually because the curve is in the wrong direction. So we need to select the curve and go to edit mode and then go control points. And we need to, or rather we need to go to segments and hit switch direction. And now it'll be going the right way, but you can see it's kind of weird. And that's because when we moved this, we just completely messed up the position of it. So let's go into edit mode and put it close to where it's supposed to be. So we want it to be around here. So you can see, we want it to be on that line again, just like we had it, like that. And now if we go back inside, now we can see our crown molding is working the way we want it to. So as you can see, sometimes it takes a lot of work to get it to work the right way. But once you have it set up, you can make these crown molding profiles, and to switch the crown molding profile, you just go into this geometry section, pick a different path, and now you have a completely new crown molding path, which is very handy because you already need to do the work of modeling the hallway, the walls, the floor, all that stuff. So this makes it pretty easy. Now this one's way too big still, so let's go into edit mode, and then we can hit Alt S to scale, and we can scale it down to be something closer to what would look right in this scene. And now you can see it's looking a lot better. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with this, but it takes a lot of work, and that's why I made the crown molding pack version 2, which came out not too long ago, and it solves all these problems. So I actually have it installed here. So this is how easy. Let me just hide what we did here. So all you need to do is go to File, Append, and then you need to append the crown molding pack, which I have over here. Go to Blender Files. So I hit Append, and then I go to Collection, Crown Molding Pack, and that will add the crown molding pack into my scene. And after I've done that, all I need to do is in my hallway, just select the face that I want to make a crown molding around, which is the ceiling, and then I just hit Convert to Crown Molding, and it just did like all of that work for me very quickly. And then I can select that crown molding, and I can change the scale pretty easily with that. you can just see it's like so much easier to do stuff. And then if you have something really cool, like I could do like an inset panel here, and let me just show you kind of something that happens a lot. Then you can just convert that, and then you can change it to be something like that, which, you know, you might see stuff like this on some walls. And then I can go in here and I've got tons of different options. I've got crown molding, I've got trim, which you can see looks something like that. And you see this all the time in these really nice houses. So the crown molding tools and the crown molding pack makes this so much easier. That's the whole reason I made it, because I was doing scenes like this a lot and it was a lot of work. You could do the same thing with trim around a hallway or a floorboard, or you could do really cool stuff like making custom picture frames and stacking this to do really cool stuff. So there's two different types of curves. There's 3D and 2D curves. When I started working on all this stuff, I had no idea what the difference was. So let me just clear it up for you. So 2D curves are really good for one plane. So stuff like our crown molding up here would be totally fine because it's perfectly flat. But if you try to move one of these points up in the z-axis, it just doesn't work because it's two-dimensional. But if I change it to 3D, you can see I can make these curves do literally whatever I want. Now, you might be wondering, why don't you just use 3D curves for everything? Well, the weird thing is that 3D curves actually don't handle corners the same way. And in really complicated scenes where you might have like curved geometry, the 3D curve just looks really wrong, and the 2D curve has great corners. So whenever you make something by default, 3D curves will be selected, but with the crown molding tools, it uses these 2D curves because they're so much better. There are obviously some things that 3D curves can do that 2D can't, and that's like tilting. So let me show you what that looks like. So you can see with this curve, if I try to tilt it, it says, no, you have to use a 3D curve. So let me just turn it to 3D, and then I can make it whichever direction I want, which for this example doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but for this one it does. So if I wanted it to be, you know, like a table edge, I could do that, or I could do it flat against the wall. I also have mirroring tools if for some reason you wanted something to be going the opposite direction. Like let's say I wanted this to be mirrored in the other direction and go up. Super easy to do. I can also increase the scale very easily. I can switch direction, which for some of these things looks like a flip. And it just makes so much of the things that you need to do very easy. The other cool thing is you can select multiple things at the same time and do stuff which, you know, would otherwise be a little bit more awkward. So you can say, oh, I have all these wall pieces that I want to all be the same size, and that's pretty easy to do. So I'll include a link to this whole project file, including the image that I showed at the beginning, so that you can get all that stuff for free and you can start to play around with making your own crown molding pack. But I also have this great resource that's available for you right now. So that's it. I hope you learned a lot about adding crown molding quickly in Blender. Don't forget, if you want to get free resources and great tutorials like this straight into your inbox, sign up for the Daring Dino newsletter at daringdino.com/newsletter and subscribe to this channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.